Hello, welcome to a fun Friday, or whenever you're watching this, at Cardboard Alchemy. I am Peter Vaughan. We are behind the scenes at a board game publisher, the makers of Flamecraft and Andromeda's Edge. We also make Critter Kitchen, which is coming. This is our next one. It is about to be here. And I am sitting in a fun wall of all the Critter artwork. And I have Rosie on our team joining us in the comments to take all your questions because we want to hear from you about what you're playing. It is a fun time of the year because it is the holidays, and sometimes that means more game time. Sometimes it doesn't mean more game time, but if you could squeeze in some more games, this is the time to do it. And we are coming back from PAX Unplugged, which is one of my favorite shows of the year. And we had a fun time, and we're going to talk about that for sure, as well as all sorts of other games. We have some people saying hello. How's it going, Mark? Nice of you to take time out of your Andromeda's Edge game to talk with us. This is awesome. And Stephanie, it's been a while. It's nice to hear from you. We have a bunch of people playing Flamecraft right now, which we'll talk about too, because we're testing some new stuff. Can't wait to go talk more about that as well. So how is everybody doing? I hope everyone's doing okay with the craziness that is the holiday season. Let's talk a little bit about PAX and what PAX Unplugged is like. So PAX Unplugged is in Philadelphia. The PAX shows are very big. There's a PAX East, a PAX West. This is their board game version of the show. A lot of times they're all focused on the video games with a very small board game part. This is the Unplugged, all board games, all tabletop, all 2D, all role play, role-playing games and so forth. It's a lot of fun. And we joined Lucky Duck Games booth, which they are our distributor for Andromeda's Edge. We had a debut of our third game at Cardboard Alchemy, which is Andromeda's Edge. Don't have a nice box to put up in front of me, and it's no longer space behind me. But I actually have a picture I can put up of the. Let's see if I can get this slide here. And Rosie may come on when I do this. Hello.
Hello.
So this is Andromeda's Edge at the table at the Lucky Duck booth. We had a fun corner of the booth, and Luke Laurie was there. This is when he was doing games every morning, playing a full game, and then after that full game, we moved on to demos, shortened versions of the game where we had people just get a taste test of Andromeda's Edge, because it is a big commitment to sit down at a show and play something as big as Andromeda's Edge. But a lot of the people who wanted to sit down with Luke were there because they either backed and they wanted to figure out more about it, or they just wanted that whole experience with him. So it was really neat to have Luke there. Now, Luke Laurie is the two designers of the game are Luke Laurie and Maximus Laurie. And Luke was able to join us, and he normally can't do that. So we were really excited to get him out too. This is a second show we got Luke to come out to. It's really, as a designer, I mean, I only had this one time because I designed one game that I myself published. So I didn't even really see what this is like. But I can imagine as a designer to see your game get its heyday, like get its release and have fans just so excited to meet you and sign the box. He signed boxes, he signed cards, he signed his other games, because Luke Laurie has also designed Manhattan Project Energy Empire and Dwellings of Eldervale and Whistle Mountain and Cryo, and so people were coming up to him for all of his other games as well. And we were happy to celebrate Andromeda's Edge there. Some really great games. I have another picture of Chris Strain on our team doing the demo portion of the game, where basically 4 people were getting a scripted turn and then a free turn so that they could see how the game played and then take a shot building a building or fighting, battling it out. In our demo, we had to pick 4 of the 18 factions to show. And it's so funny because after a while you start seeing those same factions and you're like, wow, there's so many other factions. And usually when I told people that you could also play as the Flamecraft Dragons, they were like, what? You can play as Flamecraft Dragons and Andromeda's Edge as well. So it's pretty fun. The demo that Chris is running was between the Space Pirates. We had Funganor Sporgots, which is always fun to say, like, you could play a sentient fungus. You're just trying to grow giant structures out of organic material. Or you could play as the Arkanoan shipwrights. They build a lot of ships and combos. And then the last one we had was the Weldon Forge Folk, Space Dwarves. So we had like a lot of fun. We had piles and piles of Andromeda's Edge, which disappeared by the end, so that was like really neat to see. This is the retail edition. You can see that box. I know a lot of our fans have the big box. So a lot of times people are like, wait, what is the difference between these two boxes? Well, this is the gameplay and none of the extra. I mean, like all the gameplay pretty much. I mean, there's an expansion and some promos, but this is like all the core experience put into its tightest we could get it. And then
Yelly was saying it looks like a lot less crowded than Essen. The photo you had before had quite a lot of space behind. And I was like, that must be nice.
You know, PAX is roomy. I will say that they have done a really good job on their hall in sort of they have like big wide corridors and they have a lot of room to still grow. I think it's about, I mean, it's a lot smaller attendance than Essen, and I don't think they're sharing the numbers, but we think it's around 50,000 to 60,000 unique numbers.
I saw a video from Grant and he said 45,000.
Yeah, so I think that so UKGE is actually a little bit bigger, right? So it's
well, there might be uniques though, because it's a boring thing anyway. But yes, it's like around that.
But anyway, a big show. It still feels big, but it feels it's roomy. I don't have a lot of. I did take some video. We don't have all the stuff up here, but one of the things that I found really fascinating about it is some of the board game vendors. They do like this large exhibitor hall, and then it goes to arranged demo halls, which is kind of funny because it's like seeing a Kickstarter banner every table, because that's what has happened in Kickstarter. Kickstarters want to like show you their game, as we have done, and then after that, it's more it's like shopping. It's like stores have more area. And then after that, it's open play. And this is all in one hall. And what I'm kind of most blown away by at Philly is that hall doesn't sound too loud either. It doesn't. It actually sounds like, I mean, you can have conversations. It works out.
That's nice.
It's a really good spot. The only downside with PAX might be December, Philadelphia. I mean, I like Philly for the food, but it is cold and, I don't know that I want shows in December, but, I do like this show. Some other fun things about the show that I want to talk about is I ran into Jamie from Foster the Meatball, and Jamie told me that she tattooed a dragon on her arm, which of course is a moment to celebrate. Whenever that happens, she said this is her favorite Flamecraft dragon, and she had to put it on her body, which I think is, this is a testament to Sandara's art. Is charming, and it's always magical when people want to have a dragon on them from our game, which is like super cute.
Awesome. I want to see a Flamecraft sleeve now. Like,
yeah, a lot of people do write to Sandara and say, "I'm going to do this thing," and if she had time, I'm sure she would help them out doing sleeves and whatnot. We also had a really special thing. Lucky Duck wanted us to see if we could get some painted minis, and Rosie has done some painted minis, but Rosie's location and distance from Philadelphia was hard to get that coordinated. So we asked a fan of ours, a really good Flamecraft friend, Cassie, to paint some minis of the Series 2 minis. She did an amazing job. I love the fact that when you paint the fancy dragon, this is Starburst. This is Sandara's favorite, and she didn't make it pink, and she said, "I'm going to make it look like Starburst's card." So you got loaf in the back there. I don't have a lot of pictures of these, unfortunately, in time for the stream, but here is a close-up of Deathfang, one of my favorites.
I love the gem.
I mean, yeah, it's so cool to see when people interpret the dragons and have fun painting them. I haven't painted a set yet.
Deathfang is the hardest. Don't do it last.
Do Deathfang last.
Those swirls, because they're not in the. You've kind of got to freehand them.
Yeah, because there's a light color to Deathfang's belly. I also, I don't know if I could get this in time, but I also really like her loaf, the way the bread was done. Just such good stuff.
It was really cool. It looked like a good sourdough.
Yeah, it's fun. I have There's someone else we've talked to who's painting some Andromeda's Edge minis, and those developments are not necessarily, they don't need to be painted because they kind of highlight the leader pegs in the different colors really well. But someone is doing like this Tron effect on them, and I think that's pretty cool too. So we're gonna.
Cassie did share a picture of these in the Flamecraft fan group on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
If anyone wants to have a proper close-up look, they're all laid out in a row in the box and everything, so you can check those out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
PAX was for me also a show of like connecting to various other people who we work in the industry with. One of the awesome connections is that, well, Philly is closer to Alex Cutler, who is the one of our co-designers of Critter Kitchen. So I was able to connect with Alex and talk to Alex about his upcoming games. There's actually a game of Alex's that I can't wait to back. It's coming from Smirk and Dagger. It's called A Place for All My Books. It's going to be so good. It's you are introverted and you just like to organize your home with all of your books. It reminds me of organizing with board games too, but you have rules where you have to, like, you might get a secret goal of saying, I want all blue in this room. I want like the bedroom to have blue books, and I want this other room to have large books. And so you have these like goals and you're trying to get these books. And as you organize your house, you build up energy, because an introvert would build up energy from not going outside. And as you build up enough energy to go outside, you go outside to the library and get more books, or a used bookstore and get more books, or like you just find ways of getting more. You go sit on a park bench and read, whatever. There's like this cool vibe to that game. Alex actually co-designed that with Mike McKelsick, and I think they have a hit on their hands. And Smirk and Dagger, I think, is launching that in January, so that was fun.
I think so. Yeah, I love that they included like social battery into it.
Yeah, social battery is a very cool thing.
You basically go out and buy books, use up all your social battery, go home, organize your books, recharge your social battery, and the cycle of buying books continues.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really cool. I'm really excited to play it.
I feel that not only for books, but I also feel like that's what I do with my home and board games. And I do feel like, it's over a game, I can hang out and meet new people. Whereas without a game, I'm like, ooh, this is it's harder. Anyway, yeah. I like that one. I also talked to, and this is a very exciting development for Cardboard Alchemy, Nicole Cutler. No relation, except she is married to Alex. But she has joined our team. She's actually very experienced in the industry, and I met her first long time ago. She's worked for Arcane Wonders and Pandasaurus and has been around the business a long time, and has joined us as a special projects manager to help us do all of the things that we're trying to do for next year. We have our biggest year coming for Cardboard Alchemy. More on that to come. There's quite a bit to talk about, but it is ambitious, and so Nicole is joining us for that. That's awesome. So it was great to see her at PAX. I connected with just other people I connected with. I connected with George at Oniro, who's our animator, who has a lot of work to do as well for us. And I'm super excited because George is ready to go, and we have Flamecraft things to animate and more Andromeda things to animate, and teasers and trailers and whatnot. So George was great to connect to. I don't see George a lot because he's in Canada, but he does come down to this one, so that was good to connect with him. I met with manufacturers, which was great because we are actively quoting something I can't talk too much about right now. We're quoting a brand new Flamecraft game, like not even the one you know about or have heard about. It's like a different Flamecraft game.
We're just throwing curveballs, like.
I know. So, but it's just but to talk about how my show goes, I'm having meetings with designers. I'm taking pitches. I'm talking with publishers. I'm working with manufacturing quotes. I'm connecting with like-minded publishers, looking at what they're doing. I literally spend most of my show trying to take pictures. When I'm not demoing Andromeda's Edge, I'm taking pictures of other booths and getting ideas, because there's a lot of innovation in the hobby, and there is really cool things that people are doing. For example, right next to Lucky Duck's booth is All Play. Now, All Play makes very interesting choices that are completely different than Cardboard Alchemy's choices. For example, they only have 2 box sizes. Now we actually don't have too many box sizes yet either because we're getting started, but we have like Flamecraft and Critter Kitchen are a box size and Andromeda is another box size. So maybe we are doing 2 box sizes, but they specifically focus on small and medium and take all the deluxe out of it. They go more straight to retail. They do a lot of shows, and they do it really well. Like All Play is a machine. They know what they're doing. Like every box fits on this size demo table. Whereas it's funny, our games, I keep having to say to people, yeah, Andromeda's Edge, Flamecraft, Critter Kitchen, they're fun table hogs. We almost don't know how to. We will take every inch of the table you have, and then probably a little side table also. So Mike
Yeah.
Vanderveen says brand new and not flame bound. That is correct. That is what we're talking about here. We
Mhm.
do have. So for anyone who's in the chat doesn't know about Flamebound, Flamebound has been something we've been talking about as the standalone sequel to Flamecraft, where the dragons will go on an adventure. They're going to find out where they come from. And we've been building that for a long time because we want to get that just right. And Sandara's done tons of work on that. Manny's done tons of work on that. And it's getting closer and closer. But also, another surprise is coming as well. So we are very excited about all these Flamecraft things.
Yep.
Of course,
Lot of surprises.
Of course, the first thing that's going to kick off the year in 2025 is Critter Kitchen coming to backers, which I think is going to be very momentous. It's going to be a great moment. It has it's our 4th game at Cardboard Alchemy, and it's funny because when you crowdfund, you make the thing along. We've play tested it and brought it to life a long time ago, and then we funded it a long time ago, and now it's arriving in a long time. It has this like journey that it has to go on. Yay, Critter Kitchen. Critter Kitchen is so exciting for me because I think as I had this one chat with Board Game Co. a long time ago where we got to talk about Andromeda's Edge as one end of the spectrum and Flamecraft as the other end of the spectrum. We are making big and small games. I'm not saying like Flamecraft is gateway because I know it might not be it for some people. It just depends on where you fall on its complexity level. But Flamecraft is lighter than Andromeda's Edge. I think that's fair to say. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to it is lighter of a game. They're both accessible in their own way to their own audiences, but they're at different ends of the spectrum. Whereas I think Critter Kitchen, it starts where Flamecraft is and then goes towards Andromeda in terms of like what you can do to it, because you can add player powers and location powers, and you can do more complicated critics. Like you start off with a basic critic and you can add more complicated critics and very basic zoo chefs, and you can add more fun stuff when you're ready. So that's a really unique thing that I love to see in games where you can start. It's actually something that's kind of built into Flamecraft. So as an example, Flamecraft starts with no powers on the initial 6 shops, and then you gain powers one at a time. So audiences can like absorb those powers one at a time. And I think the same thing is true for Critter Kitchen, which is you can play this game, which is simultaneous play. Nobody has different rules. But then if you want to give people different rules, everyone can have a different power, and everyone can have, and then locations can get more asymmetry. And you can do that as you feel comfortable to do that.
There's a lot of scope for different kinds of players.
Yeah.
And if people like to have very mean, like aggressive games, they can. And if people just want to chill, they also can. I think it's nice about it.
There's going to be really fun combos. Like, for example, one of the things you could add in Critter Kitchen are these carts, and these carts change the locations. And the locations, there's 18 carts. So one of them is flowers. One of them is, wontons. One of them is, we've got dumplings, and we've got balloons, and we've got gold coins, and we've got a mystery box, and we've got pies. So what happens is you can mix 3 of them into any game. And Peter C. Hayward, our co-designer on that game, has already started to come up with, if you want like this type of game, here are the 3 carts you should get. if you want this type of game, here are the 3 cards you should get. So we're going to be doing content like that in January to get people all excited to like, so that you can kind of get the game, you can dial in the game that you want for Critter Kitchen. Very excited that people can make it the game they want. And from one more standpoint on that, Critter Kitchen is the only game that I have ever made. I've worked on 40 games, and I have never made a game that goes 1 to 7. I think that's fantastic. I think that that's, for a strategy game to go to 7 is a feat in my personal opinion in the industry, because party games are what normally goes to 7. Because you don't want to wait for someone's turn, and party games are just naturally like fast and quick and loose and whatnot. But simultaneous play in Critter Kitchen allows us to have 7 players all fight it out to go to these different spots. Now, 7 players is not going to be everyone's favorite player count for Critter Kitchen, because it is a lot of maintenance and table, but it's possible to have a group play 7, and I think that's kind of magical. Whereas I think there'll be a lot of people who, as a couple, want to play like 2-player Critter Kitchen, very tight. Princess Bride, I'm outguessing you, you're outguessing me. I thought you were going to go there. So much fun to do that with one other person, right? Like really good.
But our game isn't inconceivable.
Yeah, we should have put a little Princess Bride nod somewhere.
Can't put them in every game.
Right, because there is one in Flamecraft. I don't know if anyone's noticed, Buttercup and Wesley are in Flamecraft.
So cute.
They're very cute.
They're great dragon names.
Right? Yeah. We like little Easter eggs. I was talking to someone at PAX, and they were talking about Andromeda's Edge, and they said, does this have any like references or things? I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, first of all, the science vessels don't look like any type of, spacecraft you've ever seen, unless you've watched some TV and then maybe you've seen something that they look like. But also, Chris Strain put all these Easter eggs in the different modules. The factions are often references. Luke is a big fan of sci-fi, so you'll see all sorts of like, fun references to other games and other sci-fi and other properties and everything. It's really
Chris
fun.
tells me there's a TARDIS, and I still haven't found it.
There's a TARDIS in there somewhere.
There's a couple of questions here.
Yes, let's answer some questions.
There was also a very similar question on if you ask questions on our posts that we do on our group. Someone said, is there any Flamecraft in Critter Kitchen? And this is quite a similar question of if there are any crossovers.
Yeah, I love crossovers, first of all. So every chance we have to do crossovers, we're probably going to take them. So for example, there is Mission Catastrophe in Andromeda's Edge, because there's a card that feels real, because Mission Catastrophe is our first game, and it's very take that inside. You're trying to push everyone out of the way to get to the one escape pod. So there is a card in Andromeda's Edge that feels mean. That is Mission Catastrophe. Every time someone plays it, I'm like, oh, Mission Catastrophe. And we put Flamecraft in there as well. Now, Critter Kitchen, at the time, we didn't want to confuse anyone that the worlds were the same as Flamecraft. So we did not put a Flamecraft promo in there. Does that mean it will never happen? I don't know. Depends on where that game goes next, But at the moment, there isn't it's Sandara's attempt to keep 2 different worlds and make everyone not confused. So we didn't do that.
You got lizards, so
right. You could you'll probably see touches of what Sandara does in all of Critter Kitchen, right? She makes things adorable. It has that in common with Flamecraft, but it doesn't have a straight crossover. But as we make more games, I definitely know we're doing it's funny, we're working on an Andromeda's Edge expansion, and Luke was making a faction for it's like Martian terraformers, and I thought that was really funny because we're making a very clear thing there. We love doing that stuff. We've had discussions in our Discord about like connections between our games. Like we put there was potatoes in Mission Catastrophe because the Martian has a big potato theme. So we made a botanist. You could play the botanist in Mission Catastrophe. Then when I told Sandara that like maybe we should put a potato in every game, she made a meat dragon like specifically cooking potatoes and named Potato, which I think Rosie really likes that one, right?
Where are the potatoes in Critter Kitchen?
I mean, Critter Kitchen meant to have potatoes. We had a lot of carts not make the cut because there's so many carts. We had to pick the best 18. There was a fry cart for a
I'm
while.
sure there's a potato in the arts somewhere,
Right?
even if it's just in the tuber family.
Cigar drew a lot of some of those meals that you're trying to make, and so we'll just
Yeah,
call one of
yeah.
those dedicated to potatoes. So
I
it's
was I was cooking with a Tolkien-inspired cookbook, and it had some history about how Tolkien picked certain vegetables, and there's a
yeah,
reason it's like no tomatoes because that would have been like a new vegetable. What's interesting is potato also would have been a new vegetable, but he liked potatoes so much that he went, "Screw it, I'm still gonna put them in the book." So he
violated
never
that
would have
one.
gotten potatoes if he was being more accurate to the time he was setting in.
Yeah. So one of the other fun connections that I think is it's going to be fun to look when we look at the whole catalog about what is in what. I will name two other thoroughfares that I think are worth watching. One is that we've had purple. I mean, it's our company color. Sorry. I love. It's a player color thing where I was like, I want to make games with large player counts, 5, 6, 7. I want to make sure we have some other fun colors to pick besides the standard 2 to 4. Usually, you get I think you usually get like yellow, red, green, and blue, or you get yellow, red. In some Euro games, you get like black, yellow, red, blue. I think I don't know, but anyway, we put purple in Mission Catastrophe. It's playable in Flamecraft. It's playable in Andromeda's Edge, and it is playable in Critter Kitchen.
It shows how brave you are because the purple is notoriously difficult to print. Because something
Yes,
about like
it is.
when you're picking, it's always like gray, 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 purple, gray.
Also in printing, I've spent a lot of years in printing with Disney, and the blue is the hardest color to get to print. All your deep blues are very hard to get right, so that's a tough one. But anyway, the other thoroughfare that I think is really interesting going forward is potion bottles, because of course we do like potions here, and we have a couple of games that all have potions as resources, and I think that's kind of interesting. Granted, Flamecraft has them, which of course is the biggest one. Mission Catastrophe doesn't have potions; it doesn't make sense there. Andromeda's Edge has a card called Weird Alchemy, but there isn't like a specific potion thing in it. But some game ideas that we're going forward with, and one of them is Whisperwood. Whisperwood has a potions as a main resource, and there's another game after that that has potions as a resource, and so I think it's just kind of funny that potions are coming up.
Potions forever.
We got some more questions.
Yep. Stephanie said, how long do you think it would take to play through all of the solo content for Critter Kitchen?
That's interesting. So, okay, let's think about the solo content. Now, the solo content for Critter Kitchen was one of those things we thought was impossible to do because, as we've explained on the stream before, Peter and Alex designed this game to have based on a concept of, I believe it's a Japanese term called yomi, which is getting inside your opponent's head, and you don't have that as much with AI. But we built an AI, with Peter's help, Chris Strain developed it, that you could battle the initial critics in the base game. So there's 12 critics in the base game. And so at the very least, if you're going to play that game, you would see at least 12 fresh games to experience those critics. But as we know in this game, you could add restaurateurs and you can add zoo chefs, and because of that, it's never going to feel like the same game twice.
Yeah. It's not the same as doing like a legacy game where there's a period of time that you do the whole thing in, because of the constant like change in variability of what you're going to have when you set up your game. I think it could take an awful long time to experience every version of a
there are
game.
fun combos, and of course the other thing about that is the expansion and promo critics are not necessarily called out in the solo book, but I know people are going to try them anyway. So there's actually a lot more you can do, but and what we decided on that was we really needed to focus it on what we knew we could deliver, like a really solid version of solo. But I know there's going to be forums and posts about like, oh, I mixed this one and these carts and I did it. This is how, I'm sure Peter in particular will be on those forums helping people out with. I'm volunteering Peter right now to help people out with more ways they can combine their game, and probably it'll be an endless loop of what you could do.
He'll appear in a minute.
Yeah. Anyway, I think there's gonna be a lot there because the game has a lot there. It's modular. and as a result, that should be a lot of fun, different variants to try. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be curious to see what people think is the most fun critic to play against solo, because there will be some differences. If you're playing against the rabbit who loves carrots, the thing about solo is it's run by a corporation, McDonald's, and McDonald's is coming to town, and they are going to serve a 7-course meal to the critic also, but they are not aware of all the critic's sensibilities like you are. So McDonald's does not know that the rabbit wants carrots, but they're going to serve carrot burgers anyway. I mean, like they're going to serve things, and you're going to actually find that they steal your carrots right before you could grab it. So they're not going to play by the same rules. So I'm going to be curious to see which one's most fun to try to play against.
I'm trying to imagine what a 7-course McDonald's meal would look like, and if anyone in the comments wants to give us an idea of what a 7-course fast food dinner would look like, I'd love to hear it.
It's very funny, because I think the line that Peter wrote at the end of the rule book is like, if you beat them, congratulations, to celebrate by going out to, have a nice meal. And if you can't beat them, then just get yourself a hamburger. There was like a fun, let me see if I can find it, actually. I'll just
commiserate with a hamburger.
What was that?
Commiserate with a hamburger. I don't know.
Commiserate with a hamburger, right? So it was a really funny line. Let me see what I got.
What would I start with? I feel like I'd start with some hash browns.
Yep.
I do love McDonald's.
If you have more stars than McDonald's, congratulations. You've defeated the corporation that moved in and tried to lower Bistro Bay's food standards. To celebrate, why not go get a burger? If not, the town is ruined and it's all your fault. To commiserate, go get a burger. If you can't beat them. So I think that's funny.
I love it.
You can't let this happen. It'll be your mission to make sure you serve a better 7-course meal than McDonald's.
Absolutely. Here's a completely different question. Yeah. How do you decide how many demo tables to get at a convention?
Oh, that is good. I actually I study this a lot as I've been in the industry a while. We don't do our own booths, so we don't make this call. So one of the things that we do is work with Lucky Duck to see if they have any tables. Sometimes they don't have tables for us, but whether they do or not, I study the other companies and see what they're doing. So for example, I went to Essen and I was looking at the top 10 games as noted on BGG, and I went to each one of them to see what are they doing, and each one took a very different strategy. So for example, SETI, which is hot at Essen, they did about 9 demo tables of SETI, meaning, and they did partial demos. They didn't do full demos. They wanted as many people to sit down and get into SETI, which is great. But like, if you take a completely opposite strategy, De Vere, who's just as popular and just as hot, they put 1 table of each game, and they were playing full games. And so you couldn't sit down and play White Castle at De Vere's booth. But I think they were figuring most of their games are a little bit smaller, and they're like, listen, if you want it, it's great. You could see it and ask some questions, but probably just go buy it and get it done. I actually am fascinated by the different strategies. So what we did at Essen for Andromeda's Edge is we asked Lucky Duck, and they were so nice to get us 4 tables. That was like splitting the difference. And our goal with the 4 tables was not to do complete plays. We wanted to do as small as possible taste tests of Andromeda's Edge. So we wanted more tables at PAX, but we didn't have the room for it. So we did 1 table. And I do think we could have done better with more, because there was people who we had to say, I'm sorry, it's in the middle of a demo and we can't get you. So it is tough to figure out that demand. Shows are also different. And then there's this interesting thing about shows between the US and outside the US. Whereas I think in the US, people want to sit down and play before they buy. And I think in Europe, a lot of the times the space is tighter and everyone understands that. So most of the time the booths are not putting down tables, and they're saying, do your research, decide if you want this game, learn all about it, but go play it later tonight. Do not try and take up your whole con playing this thing, which, you're trying to cater to each group. I think the biggest show in the United States, Gen Con, has proven that there's an event space that goes so far. And what people do is they'll do 1 or 2 tables at the booth, and then they'll do many tables in the event area, so they have a little bit of both. I saw All Play in Philly do demos at the booth, but also another whole area to play, like more full experiences. So
Box Meeples asked, do you think partial demos are better than complete plays or even quickie pre-scripted demos?
That's a tough call, especially because games are different. And I also saw at SN Civolution had full plays, and that game was like 5 hours. I couldn't believe they were doing full plays. But for that game, I think you want to feel the whole thing. And so for Andromeda's Edge, we had a tough time trying to figure this out. Like, does someone want to play all of Andromeda's Edge? Could you even get enough of Andromeda's Edge in a short thing? And so what we did, and I'm really proud of Lauren on our team who made a scripted demo of Andromeda's Edge. I told her that what I wanted to see was 4 awesome turns, like you're about to do the coolest thing you can in the game. She built that in a way that we talk people through those turns and then let them try something. I think in general that's better, because when I go to a show, I want to get a taste of this and a taste of that, and walk over here, take a break, get a meal, talk to a friend. I think shorter is better than a whole thing.
I mean, I put that question to anyone in the audience. If you've been to a convention, which do you prefer? Personally, I would, if it's a quick game, like the length of Hive, happy to play the whole thing. If it's a strategy game that's really quick and, simple, fine. But to be honest, I'm much happy to give it a couple of rounds, and I'll know by that point if I want to buy it. That's just me, though, because I
think that's true for me too, because what we were trying to do for Andromeda's Edge is, if by the time you see someone build a building and you pull back and then an event happens and a raider attacks, you should know if that is your jam, I think.
Yeah.
Because but there are some people out there that want to see, like, no, I want to see how the scoring ramps. I need to, like, be sure this is my all-time favorite thing, and I get that too.
It's why it's good having these board game libraries that people could, if you make sure there's a bunch of copies in the library, then those people go, I'm going to play the whole thing and then buy it the next day if I want it. Like, there are options for that. But I think in a convention setting, having 4 people sat down for more than an hour is a very long time for them to be, like, stationary, especially as they'll start to get a bit, like, antsy, like, I want to go to the toilet, I want to, like, go get a drink, it's busy, it's noisy, like, that's what I think for sitting down for longer than an hour. But we did run hour-long Critter Kitchen demos at Essen the year before, and everyone had a great time. So we
shortened those, though. Key thing on those is we called it the taste test, and we shortened the Critter Kitchen rounds from 7 to 4. And I think that was important to say, hi, here's 4 of the 7 rounds. Do you like the vibe? If you do, you're only going to love more of that when it gets to your table,
Absolutely, yeah. So. And I was, we always have someone on the table the whole time with them, where some demoers will go, I'm going to teach it to you, and then I'm going to run over and teach another table, and then they'll be left there. Whereas we for our games have had someone there the whole time to assist. So that's a different experience as well. Sometimes you're like, okay, and did everyone get that?
To me, those are better for, like you said, there's the library cons. I went to Board Game Geek Con. There's a big library. What they do with that library is, I mean, you can check out anything, and then you just go to a table, and you can put up a sign that says teacher wanted or players wanted, and you can play the whole thing. And sometimes the teacher will stay with you the whole time. Sometimes they'll be like, here's the rules, 5 minutes, you got it, good, I'm out. And then you're like, I think I need more help. I didn't get that. But you could sit there and read the rule book yourself. I actually joined BGG because I wanted to see, Andromeda's Edge was in the hot games room. I wanted to make sure they were okay. I kept coming to the table, and I would see games just going, and everyone's like, I got this, which made me feel really good that we wrote a decent rule book.
Got some people giving their responses. I apologize to anyone who played as red for Luthia. Is that how it's said?
Yeah.
Patterson, the pre-scripted plays made it impossible for them to do well. I mean, that does happen. I guess you just have to realize that when you do pre-scripted. I like to be able to sit and try a few rounds of a complex game. Watching play isn't always as convincing. That's true. Yeah, you need to experience.
A good rule of when I started in board game demos, people would say, one of the worst things you could do, let's say you have a game and you're rolling dice. If if I show you the game and then I roll the dice, that is not as good as if I hand you the dice and be like, okay, you're trying to get a 5, or whatever we do. Like if I get people in and say like, let's have you try it and you see what it's like to cast a spell or do this thing or play this card. I love that.
We did have full plays of Andromeda's Edge with Luke. So those that really wanted to play like a whole game, there was the opportunity.
Yeah. We did a hybrid because honestly, and this is nothing against Luke, but he is probably not able of doing short things with this game because he'll tell you like, oh, but then there's this. And so he loves to play it. Obviously, I think it was better for him to play it.
Yeah.
And the people who got to play with him, I think also wanted that like, oh, I'm going to beat the designer. There was actually kind of a lot of competitive things happening where they would gang up on him. And he had to fight through all of his opponents. It was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people like saying about the same thing you said of rather than telling people that the whale plushie box was the discard pile, I handed them the card and asked them to insert it into the mouth and it was much better. Yeah, getting people to interact with it is always the way.
I mean, you want to share what these games are like. A lot of times for Andromeda's Edge, there's so many like things to share. I think we were lucky that the deluxe, the Supernova, is able to be in retail so that I could say, oh, wait till you build an observatory because that's really fun. So
I'm aware that we have 20 minutes and we should tell people what we've just started doing because it's really exciting.
Sure. You mean with playtesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that's happened, speaking of playing games and going to shows and finding all the people, and we have a great Discord, we have great Facebook groups. We have a lot of games to test. Now, testing games is a tricky thing because sometimes some people don't want to look at a game when it's rough because there might not be art on the cards or the cards might be unbalanced. And you might say, well, I just played and my faction was not as good as that person's faction. But for people who like to see the game before it's out, we have some special treats, which is that next year we have so many fun games coming. And we're doing playtesting. Now, we do playtesting at different stages. Sometimes we'll do it really early. Sometimes we'll do it right before the campaign. And sometimes we'll do it after when we're balancing the final stretch goals. So right now we're in the early stages of testing the following things. We are testing Flamecraft cards, new cards for the existing game, because one of the things that's in Flamecraft is we have companion cards, which are dragons that are one-time powers. We're testing new powers. We're testing new dragon types. Oh my gosh, there's going to be so many fun things to test. We're testing a new version of the park. We're testing all of this stuff because it's coming together with there's going to be a brand new Flamecraft thing. We're going to test that also. And then when Flamebound is ready, we're going to be testing Flamebound. So as far as Flamecraft goes, if you are a big fan of Flamecraft and you want to help us, see all these things come together, we are going to have opportunities in our Discord. A couple of things to note about that. You need to have Steam and you need to have Tabletop Simulator because we test everything online. Also, we have a demo team that's mostly US. Doesn't mean we can't test with different hours, but when we get signups, and Rosie's made a beautiful Google form to kind of get
beautiful, stunning.
Beautiful. I was trying to think of a word like a UK word, like cracking. What's so good? Like
it's grand.
It's a grand form. It's going to do things like say, have you ever played Flamecraft before? And we might say, we want this person who has played. And then we might say, we want this person who hasn't played. So I don't want anyone to take it personal if you're not chosen, because sometimes it's about, I need this time zone with this specific situation. But we're coordinating all that starting now, also because we want to build up some people who, we had this thing on Andromeda's Edge that I really liked, in which we had 7 people that were called Ace Pilots. And we did a special reward for the Ace Pilots. And so as we build up, we might say we are found like our Flamecraft experts and our Andromeda's Edge experts and our Critter Kitchen experts, stuff like that. Plus, we have testing of Whisperwood, which is a game that we've talked about a little bit on this. We're gonna bring Whisperwood out to TTS as well. where people could try that game. That is a game from Brad Brooks, Chris Strain, and Aaron McDonald. So that's a very fun bag builder that we're working on. So I think our playtesting has been great so far. We've had some awesome help from our Discord, but we are looking to kind of grow that a little bit. So we've just started a forum. I know that we've only so far posted it in our Discord. We will be also posting it in our Facebook groups as we firm up in the new year how often we're going to do this.
We've had an amazing response already
on
Discord.
Apparently people like Flamecraft.
And then immediately, because we have to start testing the new Flamecraft content, we've already started doing some. We are going to set in place some more like ways that you could be notified as a playtester from like a newsletter or something like that. But because we need to start right now, we're doing it all through Discord. So if you are interested, it's all in the Flamecraft group, and you can tag me on there or Ellie who can help you find that form. But yeah, and then we just need to check that you sort of are someone who we're like, oh, we'd like to hear what their thoughts are, and then we can just go through and allow people. But as many people, different thoughts, different opinions is really helpful. So.
Yeah, we appreciate so much, especially what's really cool about testing Flamecraft. And also, I should even mention, we have Andromeda's Edge things to test. So if you're on the Flamecraft end of the spectrum, you're like, hey, I love Flamecraft. You're like, cool. But hey, whoa, if you want Andromeda's Edge, well, we got more of that too. So we really appreciate this because this next year is really fun because we have testing for games that are already out there. We haven't had that before. Sometimes we've been doing testing for a game that is coming out. So we were doing testing for Critic Kitchen. No one had played it. Now we're doing testing for Flamecraft, where you probably already know how it works. And so this will be really kind of fun to see if we can make new stuff that breaks the heck out of it.
There are some questions for clarification. So people are talking, is it an expansion? Is it new stuff you add to the game? Is there a new game? I think expansion,
all of the above.
Well, expansion's kind of people assume an expansion means a whole thing, don't they? So
yeah, I should clarify that because our vision for Flamecraft has always been not to do, say, an expansion to the game, but to do a standalone sequel. That is still true. Flamebound is a wholly its own game, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The dragons are going to go out, like I said, on an adventure. We believe this will be a cooperative adventure. This is the things we're still, making it all happen. And then while we were working on that, we wanted to do something. The other thing that we really wanted to do is release all the promo content that had been done, because a lot of people have been chasing down all the different Flamecraft things. So one of our main missions was to come out with more, like all the promos that have been done. But we don't like to just release the stuff that has been done. We wanted to go make new stuff happen. While we were making new stuff happen, Manny has an idea for another standalone game. And the content of that game can inspire new cards back into Flamecraft. There is so much cool stuff that we're going to start talking about in the new year.
It is like the Marvel Universe.
Someone said we're having a lot of fun with Flamecraft right now. And Chris Strain, who's helping us develop, was like, by the way, if you make enough promo cards, it could be an expansion, which is funny because it was supposed to be just promo cards. And now we're going to assess whether or not it is a mini expansion or what. But it is not a, we're not trying to make a whole Flamecraft expansion. But by the time we have enough promos, and I will tell you one of them, for a while, the Dice Tower Artisans came out. This was in 2023, the Dice Tower Artisans started the year. So 2023, the Dice Tower Artisans came out. We were very excited to work with the Dice Tower and Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck helped coordinate that one. And the artisans, the extra 6 artisans, got people thinking if they could play 6-player because there were more dragons. And then we decided that we wanted to actually see what that would be like to play 6-player. But as we were playing 6-player, we were like, well, maybe we want to add a couple more enchantments. These are the kind of things that we're playing around with. And so we would like to come up with a small little mini thing that says, hey, you could play Flamecraft 6-player. as a result of making that, more things came out and more fun was had, and we're still having fun every day with Flamecraft. So something that has been what we started testing with folks yesterday is new companions, because companions are a thing that was put into the game way back when. On the Kickstarter, we did so well on crowdfunding that we unlocked all of the avatars of our company as playable characters as these companions that are one-time powers. And Rosie doesn't have one. So we decided that Rosie needs to come into Flamecraft. That idea is part of what we think about sometimes. We need Rosie in Flamecraft. So Sandara has drawn Rosie as a fancy dragon. So we have been playing around with, what would Rosie do in Flamecraft? So there's a lot of promo content, and it possibly could be considered a mini expansion. Then there is a standalone game, and then there is the standalone sequel. So it's a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
So much fun stuff.
Don't worry, we are going to get into all this in the new year. There'll be so many things to reveal. But because we're kicking off playtesting, some of you might see some of these things and have to, mum's the word, just test it and be like super excited with us, hopefully, and then say, I knew about that dragon way.
You test it, keep it on the down low. Let everyone enjoy the surprise when they get to discover it themselves.
So Axel is saying that he wants to play with Chris, because Chris Strain is a developer, and he was drawn as an orange dragon on the original campaign because he helped us with the video for Flame. The Kickstarter video was done by Chris. He got his own dragon at that point, but he wasn't in the lore. The orange dragon did not make the lore cut. So, but Chris now, what would his power be? That is what we were trying to figure out. So he is working on that kind of thing with you. If you want to try it out, you can help us think of fun companion powers. I'm
pleased to hear that I'm nearly catching people with my power. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's gonna be
great.
fun.
It's really bizarre hearing people go, I almost got caught by Rosie, but Lauren, I'm like, I don't think that's what they mean.
Yeah, I know. It's well, welcome to that kind of chat, because when we first came out with the game, my power in the game, so I have a power in the every time someone buys Flamecraft, they get a Peter companion dragon, and my power is that I do not like opening new shops for people. I don't like doing it. I fight against that until I have to do it, because sometimes it's the best move, but you have to do it. But my power is that one time when a new shop opens, you could go there first. And I think that's so much fun, and I love to do that. And so people will debate whether or not that's powerful or not. It's always fun hearing people say, well, that one's not that good, or that one is that good. Generally, everyone thinks that Rich, our puzzle maker, has the most OP power in the game. So we will see if we can challenge Chris with some other powers. So
yeah, I love it.
These are fun things to do. I will say that, sometimes you make a game, and then when you play that game, when you say, I don't play Flamecraft every day anymore. We're working on new stuff. But when I sat down to play Flamecraft again to test some of these things, I was like, I love this game. And that's a good feeling when you could still love a game. You could say that we captured something with this game. I feel anyway.
And I think some of the new content has really made me rethink how I play, which is what's great about it, is my brain's going, don't just go for dragons. Like, I love that it's making me think differently. And I think that's what new content should do, is sort of push you to try different things. So that's really cool. And I'm excited for everyone to discover that, because it's really fun.
Yeah, we have a alt version of the park, and Rosie has, like, I think you said something like, I just want to play with that version now, because it's I mean, so that's just kind of fun to see what people think of these things. So
everyone thinks my dragon's very cute because it's fancy. We're with a cup of tea and a blanket, wearing a hat. Because I think a lot of people choose bread dragons, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of bread dragons.
And I was like, it's got to be a fancy because I'm cozy. I can't be working. I'm
Right?
cozy. So I remember when Sadara was drawing it and she drew it out and I said, could you make my mug look like my mug? And so she drew it to look like the mug that I actually have, which is really
Yeah,
sweet.
that's great.
But yeah, I do
Sadara is
love to
so
see
awesome.
when the girls try a new technique and approach in Flamecraft. It makes me so proud.
Oh,
Oh, that's very sweet.
that's great. Yeah.
Love that. There was another question. It's a completely different subject.
Okay, let's do it.
You're gonna love
Ready.
it. How will potential tariffs affect backers for your new games?
Ooh, that was a good one. Of course, I don't want to see tariffs at all because the topic of tariffs is a hard one because I think that a lot of people don't realize that like plastic, for example, if you just take dragon minis, right? Plastics are not plants in the United States cannot make those plastics. We don't have that tech. We don't have that pipeline. We don't have that workflow. We don't have the workforce to make those plastics. So if there's tariffs and we're doing flame bound and it has plastic dragons in it, then there is going to be more cost. And we're going to try to do our best to, we might have to, there's a couple ways we could go. We could peel back some of that deluxeification. Oh, I hate to do that, but we might have to be smarter about what deluxeification we put in there. We might have to carve things out as add-ons and say, this is the game, but if you want more, then you can buy the extra. What we're going to do is try and absorb as much as we can, and then we're going to try and make smart decisions as a publisher. And then the last thing that we're doing we're going to quote in Europe and other places, and we're just going to like look at all the options because now there are certain things that don't work with that because again, Europe doesn't have the plastics either. But if we're making a game that's mostly wood and paper, maybe we'll be able to do that. So we're gonna it's funny what tariffs make us want to do, which is what I was saying to all the people I could, is that they are going to, it makes small business owners afraid and collapse down and like wait to see. And so it actually has this, it doesn't, in my opinion, make the economy grow. It makes us all worried, and it makes us all, we don't know. But there was a certain point where I said, but we're not going to stop making wonderful games. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out with the people who want the said wonderful games. So we'll hopefully make a really great offer for each game that we make. And if everybody believes that's a great offer, then we'll go forward. That's one of the advantages, I guess, to crowdfunding. We don't have to make a call and then put it in retail and then hope. We can actually go out to crowdfunding, see if everybody likes what we're saying as, this is the new price or the new territory or the new, things. But we're not going to stop making adorable, deluxeified, awesome games. So,
and the space is such a creative industry. We're already
yeah,
seeing so many companies make eco choices with what they're
yeah,
making
sure,
that hopefully whatever challenges we face, creative responses will come out of the industry and
yeah,
we'll be a part of that. So, this is just
yeah,
being, luckily we're very creative and like to try new things. So
yeah. We
just,
do like to try all sorts of things, right? So,
yeah.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna see where each game falls in, so one of the first games we're going to work with is actually the brand new Flamecraft concept. So when we talk about that game's smaller, and that might actually help that one out quite considerably. Andromeda's Edge might be in a harder place because it's a very big one. So
Suddenly the wooden planet is discovered and everything's carved out of wood and
right?
whittled.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll all find out together. I appreciate all the support that we can get. We are still a small business. We still could be very affected by it. We need everyone's. If we're making games that you want and that you believe in and that you think these are, good for your table and they're long lasting, I hope you'll come with us on that journey. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Mike, it is not a trick-taking game, but good guess.
There's a lot of those
Trick-taking is
out
very
there.
popular right now.
I
We
saw
if
there's
we
a Lord
made
of the
a
Rings one that looks amazing, like a
yes.
Lord of the
So
Rings.
fair point. I tried to get the Lord of the Rings one. I went to PAX and I said, I want the Lord of the Rings one. That's what I knew I wanted. And I was also going to buy one for you, Rosie. I had a full intent to get you one because I know we're Lord of the Rings,
We are Lord of the Rings
absolutely.
fans.
we're bonded in that way. So I was going to get one. So I go on Friday to get one, and none of the copies were there. So they said, big sign, come back tomorrow. So I went to go get it on Saturday, but my Saturday blew up in lots of ways. I had meetings and things and stuff, so I didn't get back there until Saturday. They had given that their quantity was done on Saturday. So I said, oh, okay, I'm going to go first thing Sunday. I'm not going to miss it this time. So as an exhibitor, I got to go a little bit early, and I got to walk over there, and I saw that the sign had changed, one per person, and no exhibitor sales. And I was like, oh. I mean, I do understand they wanted to have anyone who wasn't an exhibitor get to buy it, but I also was crushed inside. I really want that game.
I love the artwork. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
There's a lot of Lord of the Rings out, like Lord of the Rings Duel, Lord of the Rings.
You know, I played a Lord of the Rings. I played the Duels one at BGG.
Yeah,
it's quite fun, actually.
I mean, I'll take anything with Lord of the Rings on it. So,
well, they did. It's you know, Seven Wonders or whatever duel. It's like the same thing, but they added area control of Mordor and whatnot. So basically, you have you're either playing as, you know, the side of good or side of evil, and then you've got little armies on the board that you can add to. They have new cards you could buy. If you have talked to enough elves and hobbits and whatnot, you get discounts on these things. Or if you have, I guess if you're on the dark side, if you've controlled enough elves and hobbits and humans or whatever, you can take these over. But my favorite part is that they took these 2 scoreboard tracks. And the first one has a little Nazgul on a little track. And the second one has a hobbit. And as the Nazgul advances, it slides on top of the other board with like a little slider. So the Nazgul is catching up to the hobbit. So the hobbit's goal is to get to Mordor and toss in the ring, and the Nazgul is trying to catch the hobbit. And it's so much fun that they said, we could have just done a board. We could have just done a simple thing and said, you're on one board, you're on another board. But because it's very thematic that the Nazgul could catch up, so you have to go fast enough that you're not getting.
Yeah.
So it's just really neat that they did that.
Couldn't the hobbit just hide under the board? Like,
but there's also this really clever. If you talk or influence the 6 different races, like if you talk to the hobbits and you get like 2 hobbit cards and 2 elf cards and 2 dwarf cards and 2 human cards or whatever, you can win another way also. So it's like really neat that they thought of all these different thematic pools.
I would just never want to play the bad side. Like with Star Wars, it's common for people to have a side they like, you know, I get it. But I don't know anyone rooting.
No, I actually played against Devin from Lucky Duck, and I was the bad side, and I didn't like it. I was like mad that I had to try and wreck things. I was like, all right, I felt like when I was going to talk to the hobbits, I was just trying to be their friend, but I was like, no, I'm actually trying to take them over. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I feel like I'd rather play Sauron.
Yeah.
But I get it though. It makes sense. I think I would always force Doug to be the bad side. I have to be the hobbits. I have to.
Doug. Sorry, your future is always to play the armies of Mordor.
And I'll be like, I am no man.
I love that there's a lot of Lord of the Rings games and good ones. Like they're not, you know, sometimes when you have an IP, it goes the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like everyone who takes the Lord of the Rings IP on is taking it very seriously.
Yeah, there was some really lovely, like, there's one that's like a storybook one where it's a book and each page you're sort of journeying through the story. And that one's really fun, like if you're watching the movie to play along. But I still need my cozy Hobbit one where there's no actual Lord of the Rings as such, and you're just living as a Hobbit trying to maintain a peaceful life. That's the next one I want. But there is a video game coming at least, which is basically that, so.
Someone can remind me this next year because I don't want to forget this. When we were talking about all the Flamecraft things, there's yet another Flamecraft thing we haven't talked about, which is another Flamecraft game of a different type. I can't talk about it too much more.
Stop.
But like, I can't wait to talk about all the Flamecraft things. Anyway, you're reminding me because of all the things that they do with hobbits. But So one of the things I was saying, my favorite Lord of the Rings game, which I don't know if I've talked to you about this one. I think I have, the Knizia one,
I
Reiner
think so.
Knizia.
Yeah.
It's like, it was made in 2000, so it's 25 years old now. 24, 25 years old.
Don't say that. We don't need to
We
mention the
don't need to do
2000s
that? We
that
don't
much.
need to date the stream?
We don't need
Okay,
to we don't need to
but I so, like, what's really fun about that one is that you can, like, write who played and, like, how far you got against Mordor, so I have logs of that game that go way back, and I played it this year and still loved it, and so I was, like, writing in it again, so it was really fun.
Is this the game? War of the Ring?
It's not War of the Ring. Someday
Oh.
I'll bring in the box. My box is all worn out, but it's just called Lord of the Rings, so it's very, not distinguished from nowadays, they, like, label each one with a different thing, but you are playing, well, I'll describe it really briefly. You're playing with a hobbit, so you get to play on the good side. You're not, now there is a
That's
expansion
what
where
you need.
someone can play as bad and try and kill you all. But anyway, there is a track where Sauron is at the end of the track, and the track has the very first space, which is 0, is light and white, and the very end of the track, which is 15, is dark and black.
Mhm.
And Sauron's cool piece starts on 15. Or the game says you could put Sauron on 12 for an extra challenge. And I have, all my scores are like we either die or we barely make it. If I put Sauron on 12, we will. I don't know how you would win that thing. You have to be really good.
He's
So
just closer, like
right, he said, because what happens is most of the time in the game, you're going on these different locations, and some of them are like Rivendell. They just give you a bunch of cards, and you give like a bunch of resources. And you're like, oh, this is great. Then you go to, you go to Helm's Deep or whatever, and you start losing cards, and then you get a little bit more from the elves. But at some point, you don't get any more cards. Every card you've been given, you have to use carefully to get to the end. And sometimes when you don't have a card or something happens, you step into the darkness. And each one of you has a hobbit, so Frodo actually has a ring token, which is really fun, and is the one who can control what it does. But let's say Frodo gets very far into the darkness, you can hand off the ring strategically to like Sam or someone else. But usually when like the Frodo player is playing, they're like, no, it's mine. I don't want to let go of this power. It's so fun that even happens in that game. That you're like, no, it's mine.
It's causing you to
have
problems.
Usually when we've won that game, so because Sauron is like approaching on there and you're approaching on there, and basically it's like Sam will be like, okay, I'll just walk in. I'll like literally the hobbits, usually there's like only one of you survives. I mean, you all win if you can get one of you to the end. And so sometimes it's like just sacrifice. You're like, I'm walking into I'm just like, this is it. Bye everybody.
Oh gosh.
It's so much fun. It's a really good one.
Yeah, there's so many that are based on the journey.
Yeah.
Of getting there. There's Journey to Mordor, which is another one where every time bad stuff happens, another Nazgul gets added. Another one of those. You're just like, there's 6 of them now, and you just need to like get there before it fills up the whole track.
Yeah.
But Frodo can only has to always be moving between 2 groups. You have to like plan your movements.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. What's sad is the end of the movie is good. Spoiler alert. Good people win. But the amount of times I've played Lord of the Rings games where I'm like, no, we lost. We suck. Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
Frodo's gone. The rings with the guy now. This sucks.
Yeah.
So but one day we'll beat it.
I think what's also funny about the one I was talking about is they wanted it to be 5 players, but they were like, who's gonna be the 5th player?
Oh yeah.
There's another hobbit you get to play as. Fatty Bulger.
What?
Yeah. Fatty Bulger is the hobbit who, remember, they go across this field at the beginning to their neighbor's house, and Fatty answers the door or has told them. I think in the book, Fatty tells the Nazgul where Baggins is, right? So screws that up. But you can play as Fatty Bulger, which I think is kind of awesome because Fatty Bulger normally does not go out of the Shire, and you could, of course.
I thought it was the dude that goes,
that guy. Yeah. I don't know what they did
like, there's no hobbits here. They're over in the Shire. Shire, Baggins. That one.
Yeah.
It's classic.
Anyway, they do get to take, and it also has player powers in the base game, but you can also get an expansion that has more player powers. So it has some fun things because, like, you know, for example, Sam can never take more than 1 corruption on the die because he's just not, you can't corrupt him that much.
Yeah.
And then Frodo can use certain cards differently. So it's really fun. And even the mechanism for using the ring is fun because you can use it once per board and then you go forward 4 spaces minus how many icons show on the die. So you don't know if it's going to be good for you. You are gambling that you're going to hit the right spot. Like if you want to skip over a bad spot, you might just literally walk into the bad spot. So anyway, I can talk games for a long time. We should probably let everybody back to their weekend. But please, if you are playing games, tell us what you played. If we didn't get to a question in this stream, feel free to post it on our YouTube. Join our Facebook groups where we have a Flamecraft, a Critter Kitchen, and a Andromeda Edge group. We also have a Discord, as we've been talking about, where you can play the games. We have versions of Andromeda's Edge that is like fully playable if you don't have your copy yet or want to play with the designer or some other people in the crew in the Discord. You also, we're working on getting the Critter Kitchen TTS all like up to speed as well.
Shout out to Lauren.
Shout out to Lauren for getting that stuff done. Oh my gosh, she's amazing at that. And we're gonna have a playable version. Right now we have Critter Kitchen, but it's like older cards and older rule books, and we're gonna have a as we all are waiting for our copy to arrive, we're gonna have a playable version. If you got to get that chance to get into the kitchen and run around with your animal chefs. So there's lots of fun things to do. Of course, I don't know on our streams we should mention. I think we're doing one next Friday, right? Next week? Yeah. We got one more, at least one more in us this year.
I'm pretty sure that would be the last one, maybe.
Yeah, and then I think we'll just come back in 2025 with lots of fun.
Because that'll be the 20th, and then yep, that's it. So
then we'll all you know, stuff ourselves and open more games and play some things and get ready for another year of rinse and repeat of cool stuff happening.
Are you playing anything this weekend?
I'm running a playtest event. The thing I've mentioned on the stream, where we run something called First Play LA, where designers can like bring their game and test new games. So I might bring undisclosed Flamecraft Project 1 or undisclosed Flamecraft
Everyone's
Project
flying
2,
to LA.
or Whisperwood. I have lots of things I could bring to that. So I'm going to be playing our games. And I'm going to save my gaming for, I have a very big Christmas intense gaming like thing happen. It's like a mini con that I'm doing for Christmas. So it's gonna be
it's still technically Doug's birthday month.
There you go.
So I think he wants to play Daybreak, and he wants to play an escape room thing. So those are his choices. It's birthday weekend, he gets to choose. So
yeah, I say Doug, just take this all the way through December. Just keep saying, listen.
It is his birthday month.
There you go.
So
hey,
he also played Unmatched with against the aliens. I was Titania, and he just failed me as Hamlet. He just ruined it. So
you and I get to claim winning. You and I get to claim January, so we'll just let him.
We do. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Cheers and game on, everybody.